Iowa's public schools employ about 38,000 teachers. The Department of Education chose a 16-year veteran as its Teacher of the Year.
The kids absolutely keep me coming back. I love that every day is something new. You never know what might happen in your classroom that day, that year. So I just love being able to come and just enjoy my time with my students. My colleagues make work also a lot of fun.
Now, our two insiders believe that education has to once again become the state's strength.
Iowa has very few natural advantages, but it has two things: people and land and water. I guess those are three. but I consider them one. They're natural resources. And what we have to do is take care of those two things and take advantage of the fact that we have really good people and we have really rich resources. And we don't have a long-term plan to deal with either one of those right now.
Do you see the governor embracing just education as a whole? So clearly she'll push the vouchers and maybe even an expansion of it, of what she'd even talked about the last couple of years. Will she do all of that, or will she not be focused on the public education side of it?
The danger for her is, if you look back over history, the time when successful politicians have their greatest problems is the beginning of their second term after they win an election. Why? Because at that point, they've just won a big election, they think they can do almost anything. And I recall, just in the work that I've done as a staffer and otherwise, that's when big mistakes are made. I'm hoping she's listening to the people, because whether they're in rural Iowa or urban Iowa, they may be okay in some cases with some additional school choice, but you know what they really want? They want really good, top-notch public education. And right now, we've let that system atrophy, and we're going to pay for it. So I'm hoping she does, Dave. I don't know that she will.
Why shouldn't she lean into what she was trying to do? She tried and failed the last 2 years. She purged some of her Republican legislators who had refused to go along with her. How would she not feel emboldened by what she did in the primary and then her huge win in the general? Why should she not do whatever the heck she wants?
Because you serve the people, not yourself. And the danger is hubris. The original sin of a politician is hubris. You have to be always careful about that. The way she got where she got is because she listened to the people. I think people rewarded her for how she handled COVID, among other things, in the state of Iowa and the status of the state. You did that by listening to people, understanding where the people are. I hear people in rural Iowa very concerned about her school choice plan. Why? Because they only have a public school left in their communities. If they lose that, they lose everything. So rather than doing whatever you can, you do whatever's needed to be done and use your political power to make positive change for all parts of the state.
So Tom, your party, when the legislature reconvenes in January, Republicans will have a supermajority in the Senate, will have a big majority in the House. So what will the role for Democrats even be?
Loyal opposition. That's about all they can do, is to make comments about what's being done in both of those chambers. And we have some really articulate members of both the House and the Senate who will talk. But really, the power is not there. They can't stop the governor's appointments anymore because they don't have that veto power anymore. It's gone.
In the Senate.
Just to follow up a little bit on what Doug was saying with regard to education, I really think we should double down on our community college system. We should be pushing men and women into those areas and encouraging them to get trade educations which allow them to get a better income for their families. And I don't hear a lot of that, but if I was going to improve the education system, that's where the money should go. This choice stuff to me is just nothing more than kind of a red herring.
Tom, you got to start with K-12 education. I mean, we allowed K-12 education atrophy because people are concerned about the wokeness that has infected it, and as a result, it's lost a lot of key support, particularly among Republicans. We've also had ISEA, which is sort of automatically a Democratic institution. And as a result, they don't care about public education. You got to start with the basics, and you got to start with reinvigorating public K-12 education in Iowa.
You both have family outside of our state. Tom, we just went through one holiday period with Thanksgiving. What does your family out of state think about what's going on in this state?
In Iowa? Mm-hmm. I still think Iowa is perceived as being a good place to live, to raise families. I've never heard anybody say that we have a state that we should be embarrassed about, ever. So I think it's still seen that way. You know, between now and 2050, if you look at the census growth figures, we're supposed to add about 500,000 more people here in the state of Iowa. Most of them are going to be Hispanic. What's the state doing to prepare for that? I think it's a tremendous opportunity for the state to think about ways that we can grow and become more prosperous. But we're going to have to do it by bringing people into the state, not by our birth rate, because that's been pretty stable for about, what, 100 years?
So how is
Longer
the
than that.
majority party preparing for these changing demographics?
Well, because they're attracting more of them, particularly Hispanic males, to their party by talking about issues that they care about, which are working class sort of issues. I think that's what Republican Party's done. I think that's been frankly remarkable because 10 years ago everyone was preaching the demise of the Republican Party demographically, and that's not happened. If anything, the Democrats have played that the wrong way. It's interesting, the best way to predict a partisan affiliation, it seems like anymore, is educational attainment. The higher the educational attainment, the more likely they are to be a Democrat. The problem for the Democrats is those numbers don't work. And what we really need in Iowa is to raise income levels generally, rural, urban, everywhere. If you really want to improve the state, you have to increase income levels generally. The only way I know to do that effectively by government action is by educating people better, all people.
Coming up, one person our insiders say should not be a leader for all of Iowa's people.